back to the horror world of Smile. With, well, Smile 2. It's been a while since I saw the last movie. I did a vlog out of it when it came out, and I remember liking it. And the more I think about it, this is one of those movies in which I should watch this for the second time. I didn't get the chance, so don't blame me. So, uh, I gotta admit that as time went on, I was kind of forgetting the movie somewhat. Not that I forgot its existence, but I forgot some of the things that happened during the movie. Although there are some, of course, that I remember enough to think that, well, it's about a demon that possesses people, driving them insane because it makes them, how can I say, watch, make them see people with this creepy smiling faces. And well, that's kind of like the most memorable thing that we can get into the movie. And well, ever since the trailer of the sequel came out, I was like, sold. I had to watch it. I liked the first one, so I needed to go see the second one. Even though usually sequels are always on risk that it's not gonna be as good as the other one, or it's gonna be stupider. Especially kind of like in these kind of horror movies that they don't they try not to be kind of like the most artistically impressive of them all. Not like this one. This one, it kind of is clear that it was done for commercial value. But then, well, after watching the first one, you kind of don't realize that because it plays the cards right enough to make it kind of like good. In at least in my case, there's some people that like it, some people don't like it, some people say it was okay and all that stuff. This is kind of like the beauty when you have some certain subjectiveness on your taste of horror. And I did think that Smile was one of those in which, well, it only has 2 movies, so I can't say that it's gonna be called a franchise. Besides, I don't think that nothing is gonna top off kind of like the best horror movie of the year with The Substance, as well as I needed something to bring down the bad taste that I had with the last movie that I saw, which is of course Megalopolis. Mega garbage that was. But anyway, I did took kind of like a day off of watching movies. But it's mostly out of health issues. I had something with my stomach that didn't agree with me, and well, I finally got over that, and I decided to get the opportunity to watch Smile 2, and let me tell you that it kind of plays the cards right again. It's pretty similar to the original movie, but it's still good. I came out really liking this one. I will say that this is almost like a sequel that it has a little bit of a higher budget and higher things that it wanted to try to upstage the first one. And usually sequels are like that, and you know what? Sometimes it's not necessarily bad, and this is a movie that proves it. Not exactly, it's gonna be kind of like the movie of the year, but still, there are some things that I like this movie a lot more than what some people might usually say. So, but there are some things that I do agree that there are some points that it might be a little bit, how can I say, questionable in the sense of the quality of the movie. But you know what? I can forgive it. I can. There's a point that when the movie ended, there's this lady who was next to me, and she was kind of like a little bit confused of some of the events that happened. So I had to help her out, and she was thankful. And I think I think I kind of persuaded her to watch the original movie. Oh man, what have I done? So there are some so continuing on, I will say that the movie also plays like the first movie, that it has some allegories. In the case of the movies, are it's more kind of like a mental health allegory, with a slice of horror here and there. And you know what? I did buy it, and it shows that it doesn't kind of want to feel, very artistically or pretentious like Megalopolis did. So big kudos to that. And but either way, I think I gotta talk to. I think it is time for me to talk about the synopsis of this movie, which. How can I describe it? The movie basically shares the same concept from the last one. Is mostly about this. It revolves this kind of like curse, in which basically someone, the victim, gets kind of like possessed by some kind of demon that feast on the fear, anxieties, and traumas of the victim, and it likes to play around with it by messing up with their heads. Most notably is that it makes them see people and events that is not really there. Most noticeably, it makes them see people giving out these kind of like creepy smiles that is staring at them. It's kind of like really creepy. I just want to know. I want to know how the director really make these people giving kind of like the most one of the most reassuring emotions becoming really disturbing and creepy. They usually, well, continuing on, it does that to mess out the heads of those people, and eventually it kind of ruins it ruins their lives, as well as their relationship with people surrounding them. Their life goes really, really, really downhill until and it does that for a couple of days until the demon says that, you know what, time to feast. So it enters the body of the victim, and then forces them to commit suicide in front of a witness, because that witness is gonna be the next victim. That's I know that I might sound like a kind of like spoiling too much, but that's kind of like the biggest that's the thing that this movie does. The last movie did it. This movie does it. So there's no exception. The only biggest difference that the movie has is the perspective that we're looking for. The first movie, we see the life of we see how it attacks a therapist. In this case, we get a new set of characters and a new protagonist. This time, our protagonist is what was the name of the you know what? No, I remember now. Give me one more second. I don't know why it does. I don't know why this movie sometimes doesn't show up the correct order of the cast. So you know what? I'll put kind of like top cast here, because I don't know why IMDb sometimes gets crazy with crazy. Give me a second. I don't know why it. Oh yeah, let me put the cast here. Oh yeah, there it is. Sorry about that. I don't know why it act up at IMDb. So, okay, like I was saying, our main protagonist is named Sky Riley. She's played by Naomi Scott. She is this pop singer, very popular. She is preparing for her biggest pop deal as a returning artist who had to struggle with with breakups, a scandal, and surviving a very fatal accident that leaves her with scars, and it ended up the life of her boyfriend. It, it, and also she's also dealing with that with a breakup with her best friend, and she also had to go with it with her overbearing mother, who is the manager. She was getting ready for her comeback. That is, oh yeah, she also had drug addiction. Also, that she is kind of quote unquote uh, uh, trying to recover, but then things happen when she decided to drop by one of her friends to get some strong medication to make. But unfortunately, that friend was afflicted with the demonic curse from the Smile movie, and of course, this guy he's totally acting strange. He's really paranoid, and then while Sky was there, he gets the final moment in which he gets possessed by the demon. He gets this really really big smile, and then he clocks his face with a weight lift. And after that, we see this character going downhill into insanity when she begins to see things that are not supposed to be there, people giving kind of like these smiles, and basically that results in giving her actions that basically ruins the relationship of other people. That's the gist of it without spoiling too much. There are some parts that I will say, but bear with me that most of the pacing is still kind of very similar to the first movie, but like I said, it makes enough stuff in order to keep you entertained, forgiving that it looks familiar. It's actually, this movie is a little bit longer. It's a little bit longer, and people complain about the pacing. But personally, I had no problem because I was invested in the whole thing. And that's the kind of like my coping mechanism in some of those movies in which they have kind of like these pacings that goes too long. I just watch it. I get mesmerized. I just ignore. I just go along with the movie because I get interested, and it worked. In this one, it worked. We see the character going from point A to point B. We get kind of like these scares, and admittedly, yeah, this movie had jump scares in which, honestly, they're the kind of like the cheapest way to scare. But thankfully, this movie kind of like gets out of the way to earn it, because it's not kind of like one of those cheap jump scares. It actually emphasizes that this is the way the demon messes up with the protagonist's head, and of course we as the audience shares it. And now we go with the protagonist, again played by Naomi Scott, and honestly, Naomi Scott is one of those actors that I didn't like, because she participated in shit like Disney's Aladdin, the live action remake, and that, what was it, the last Power Rangers movie, that's the Pink Ranger, and all those were god awful movies, and thankfully this movie kind of serves as an apology, her apology to all those god awful movies that she was in. Because this is one of her best performances. Actually, this is a performance that goes on par with Demi Moore in The Substance. Although personally, I think The Substance has better actors. This one it does. Naomi Scott really carries the movie as the character of Sky, in which since the last movie is almost like a mental about an allegory to mental health, going to a therapist that sees a suicide and kind of affects her life and all this stuff. This one we see more in the point of view of a pop artist who had to go kind of like all these pressures, and then things get out of control, even though it is by supernatural force, and it goes down into the rabbit hole, and you see that this character, she's both likable and unlikable in certain ways. In the term that, first, she's a character that tries hard, and she's trying to come over with some bad decisions that she made, most notably the drugs. This is part of the unlikable part that she gets. It's mostly the drugs, and it kind of showcases how drugs can ruin people, especially people that are kind of in the entertaining business. And it shows, and after she gets kind of like a consequence, she tries her best, although not exactly really, because she had depending on a drug, so she cannot feel the after effects of her of the injuries that she suffered after this terrible car accident. And well, she also had this kind of like a pet peeve that she always has to drink a lot of water. Something psychological that I kind of remember, but I don't know. Somehow this movie kind of makes it best to promote bottled water, because you see her kind of like chugging these big bottles of water. That was kind of like a pet peeve that kind of have it. Oh yeah, she also have kind of like this nervous pet peeve in which every time she gets really, really stressed, she pulls out a chunk of her hair. That kind of shows that that she has kind of like a nervous mechanism on her. There are some other characters that revolves on her life. There's Rosemary DeWitt, who plays her mother, she's kind of like this passive aggressive manager who puts her under pressure, but it's one of those, I don't want to say slave driving kind of manager, because she isn't like that. She's very stern. She's always, on the nose and all this stuff. I've seen kind of like worse. I kind of like seeing worse. Also, there's kind of like a particular moment that she really makes it sound like she's a monster, and she doesn't see her daughter as a daughter, but more kind of like a tool for success. Although they humanize her enough to not reach kind of like that far. There's also kind of like this. She goes around with this agent. He's well, let me see if he's here. The name. I don't remember the name of the guy, but well, give me a second. I think it's Miles Gutierrez Riley, who he's kind of like this effeminate guy who he's kind of like a big sweetheart to her. And he really helps a lot. He's kind of like the brother that she didn't have. Doesn't do much, in the terms of the movie, but he's kind of like the manager who goes around with this. There's also kind of like the what was the name of the guy? Raúl Castillo playing kind of a guy who told her to go to a charity event. There's Dylan Galula who plays the kind of like the friend that she broke up with and had a hard time reaching it until she finally need her help. And then there's Peter Jacobson playing this guy who he probably might have some semblance of answers to the things that is going on. And Lucas Cage, he played like the victim that Sky sees that is committing suicide and all this. All these characters, they revolve doing something on Sky's life. and it goes along, with the pressure, but things, get worse with the demonic being that I already described you. There's no point on describing you, on describing the demon. Let's go a little bit with the cinematography, which again is done. It's done well. I kind of realized that it kind of just like the last movie, it wanted to show a little bit his pretentious side by having shots of the city going upside down. Although don't worry, it's not as pretentious as you think as Megalopolis, because I think that I want to mention that every artist has the right to have some their bit of pretension, but when you go a little bit too far, like Megalopolis, that crosses the line to vanity, and this one doesn't. And it, like I said, some of there are jump scares that they're effective. Some of them really got me because they make it really effectively, and even the imagery is really is creepy. I just want to know how the director really managed to create to tell those actors in which, all right, give me the camera and I'll smile, and everyone gives the smile, but there's something about that smile that is unnatural into it. You see it on the face. I just want to know, is this some makeup effect, or is it some trick of the camera, or CGI? I don't believe that they CGI the face, because honestly it will look so fake. I think there might be CGI you see here and there that I haven't even noticed. But but I gotta say that those smiles are kind of like really creepy, especially the moment that actually gets me in the creep level is you see in the trailer, but there's kind of like the moment in which this guy is really going out of her mind, and then she goes into her room and she sees these. She sees there's a lot of people giving her smiles, and then they approach her. They approach her almost like she was in the middle of a Broadway play. They was almost like looking at her, moving, looking at her. You know what? The funny thing is that for 1 second I thought they were gonna do the Thriller dance. That is actually that is kind of that's one kind of like one aspect that I can say. Oh yeah, there are some gory moments. I don't think that there are some moments that it doesn't gonna top the the substance. The substance did a lot of gore that will make you remember. But this one, well, there are some moments that make you remember, but it's not as big as it is. But let me tell you, some moments that are really something. But one of the biggest complaints that this movie has, and well, I'm trying to not overhype this movie, is that it also falls the trap that the jump scares are almost always fall during because the video editing, they say, hey, let's make the beat of the drum boom, an orchestral string or something like that, and it tends to be annoying. But you know what? This movie actually plays the cards right, because it doesn't do it all the time. There's a moment that it really shows that it wants to make a jump scare, but it doesn't do it. It shows the restraint that when it needs where it needs to do. That's technically one of the things that I can say about this movie. That there's the what else I already talked about the character, and oh yeah, I will say that yes, it holds the allegation of the movie that we as the audience we empathize with the character, especially for the things that she went through. But we also kind of see snippets of her past in which she is dealing with the trauma of this of that car accident, in which that. And of course, we already said the demon basically has apparently this supernatural power that it just that it can do almost anything, because I think that just like the last movie, the movie tries to give kind of like an allegory in which of all these traumas and all these scares and all these things that are happening, we just have to mentally prepare ourselves by saying that we have control. We can control over our over this, and yet some people can people succeed. The movie tries its best to say that no, even you say you have control over your life, that demon will make sure that it doesn't happen, which I think that brings down with the climax / the ending of the movie, which I will not say exactly what it is, although I've been hearing a lot of people feeling that this is kind of like the weakest part of the movie, and this is what it brings it a little bit down. But personally, I kind of like it. I like because it kind of breaks a little bit some expectation about the typical horror movie, in which it kind of showcases that then there is kind of like this solution, and this solution will work. This one, it kind of shows that there's no guaranteed, and the guarantees are not necessarily the ultimate solution. Although the demon kind of has this omniscient power to showcase that it's kind of clever, and it does those. And just like the whole movie, it kind of goes in this twisting of reality and expectation, and what you were seeing, that it was like most people were like, "Oh my God, what have you done?" But in my head, I was saying to the demon, "Clever girl, clever girl, clever girl." Oh, oh dear. So, but and yeah, it kind of mirrors the ending of the first movie, and it amps up some things a little bit, but I think it was kind of like a great payoff. And to give you a little bit of a clue of how the movie ended without spoiling it entirely, this is the best way I can describe it. I can describe it as if you watch Truth or Dare from Blumhouse, and but they executed it better. That's all I'm gonna say about Smile 2 in this case. You know what? I think if I keep talking enough, there's some moments that I don't want to spoil it. But you know what? If you like the first movie, it's very guaranteed that you're gonna like the second one, in which there's some things that are familiar, but the movie is still has some fresh moments that it makes you feel like you're watching kind of like a new experience. It engages you on the whole on this character who you feel like it doesn't deserve stuff like that. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention that the movie also reminded me a little bit about Shyamalan's Trap, but but the biggest difference is that the music on Smile 2 is actually better than the one from Trap. So yeah, it has a nice soundtrack. That also I want to say. But honestly, this was a nice movie. If they're gonna continue movies like that, you know what? I'm open until it eventually jumps the shark. But you know what? It's a jump the shark that I might go on and probably leave with a big smile on my face. So, cheers to you, because I'm in control.